Hey, this is Jamie with Stonemeyer Games, and today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite games of 2019. A few things I have to say first. One, sorry about the lighting, it's still a little weird. I have a new camera that's very good at picking up light, and I can't adjust the camera settings for some reason, so I need to adjust my window, and I don't know how to do that yet. So, look at my weird, blindingly light face at this point. Two, a few of these games weren't released in 2019, which I know some of you, that might bother some of you, and that's fine. These are all games that I played for the first time in 2019 and that were widely available for the first time in the US in early 2019, as far as I'm aware. I think there's one that's really bordering that stipulation, but I put it on my list because I consider it a 2019 game for most people and definitely for me. There are also a lot of honorable mentions of fantastic games. Actually, one thing, there were plenty of games that I didn't play this year. I played a lot of new games this year, but there are plenty that I didn't play. So I bet that there will be some games on your list, which I hope you share below, that I haven't even played. I didn't purposely exclude it, or if I did because I did play it, it means that I didn't connect with it in the same way that you did, and that's okay. So first, let me hit up on my honorable mentions, and this was really tough because there are some great games on this honorable mention list. Really great games, honestly. I mean, you might be surprised by a few of these given the way that I've talked about a few of them. Let's see. Aeon Zen Legacy is on here. Trogdor is an honorable mention. We Are Doomed. Architects of the West Kingdom. Paladins of the West Kingdom. Both just barely didn't make it. They were up against another game that inched into the top 10. Maybe with more plays that'll change. Tiny Towns. Parks, Harara, Tussie, Mussie, and Pikoko. Those are all honorable mentions that didn't quite make the top 10 list. So let's get to my top 10. Again, this is my personal favorite top 10 games of 2019. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these games. Number 10, and I don't own all of them, so I have visuals for a bunch of them actually, but not all of them. Number 10 is Trade on the Tigris. This is the game that really in the end, it was very close between this, Architects, and Paladins, but I loved the real-time trading aspect of Trade on the Tigris. It was a really, really unique mechanism. It added a unique feel to the game that elevated it above some other Euro games this year. And I do look forward to playing it again. I played it, I think, probably 3 or 4 times this year. Had a great time with it. Trade on the Tigris is a game where it's very much a Euro game. You're collecting sets, you're getting points, but every round of the game, there's a real-time trading phase where you're just in real time talking to other players. All other players are talking to each other players, trying to trade things from your hand to get the things that you need and to make fair trades or trades that are appealing to both the people that you're trading with. That real time aspect is just really, really special. And it reminded me a little bit of Millennium Blades, but I found it a little bit easier to organize than Millennium Blades, although both games use a lot of different decks of cards. But yeah, Trade on the Tigris. My number 10, 2019. My number 9 is Clank Legacy. Clank is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Clank, and I have played through game 3 of this Legacy version of it so far, and I'm still really, really enjoying it. It is running, I would say, a lot longer than I thought it would in terms of games per session. We have been averaging about 2.5 hours to 3 hours per session of Clank Legacy, and we are not slow players. But despite that, I am still really, really loving the experience. And they're doing some really fun, clever Legacy-like things in this game. If you like Clank and or you like Legacy games, I highly, highly recommend this. This is a really, really wonderful game. That's why it's my number 9 game of 2019. My number 8 game of 2019 is Cartographers. Cartographers is a roll and write game where you are mapping out a kingdom using a mechanism seen in Isle of Skye, where you're scoring a couple different things each round, and you're scoring each of those things twice. And it has a really, really cool mechanism that I haven't seen in a roll and write game yet, where at certain points of the game, if a monster shows up, you will actually pass your entire pad of paper, your piece of paper, to another player, and they will mess with it a little bit and then hand it back to you. I can understand why not everyone likes this, but I love that element of Cartographers. That's really, really cool. As well as all the other little mechanisms that go into like what you can draw, the goals that you're going after. Just a very satisfying game to play. Easy to teach, easy to remember. Cartographers, my number 8 game of 2019. My number 7 game is Shipwreck Arcana. Here we go. Shipwreck Arcana. And I think this is my number 1 cooperative game on the list. Let me see if there's anything. Nope, there's one that's higher. Number 2 cooperative game 2019. There we go. You can see what it looks like here. This is such a cool, puzzly game of deduction. You can see my video on it, but basically you are trying to cooperate with other players in determining a number that you have in your hand that meets rules on the table. I know that's a real abstract way of saying it, but it is a fairly abstract game. But I love the puzzle of when on my turn, when I'm trying to get you to guess my number, I am giving everyone a clue. I have information. I'm giving everyone a clue that they can use. And so I get to kind of feel clever if I give a really good clue. At the same time, all the other players get to feel clever if they figure out the clue that you're giving them. So it's like it's this the opposite feeling of cleverness for both sides, and you rotate this role of picking and choosing and guessing throughout the game. So you get to feel clever in a variety of ways in this super streamlined, elegant, but slightly abstract cooperative game, Shipwreck Arcana. Really, really loving this. That's my number 7 of 2019. My number 6, another game that I own. And this is the second roll and write game on this list, and that is On Tour. On Tour is a wonderful roll and write game. It is my number 1 favorite roll and write game right now, with Cartographers actually being number 2, very close to one another. On Tour I love the simplicity of this game. It's super, super easy to teach, super easy to get to the table, and it scales up to tons of players. I think I have maybe 10 or 12 mats in my box, so we can play. It's super heavy. I can play with a ton of people. And it scales even beyond that if you can print out a piece of paper off the website. But I love the puzzle of trying to map your band's tour across the U.S. using the numbers that come up. So if I roll an 80, if someone rolls an 87, I have to be able to write a 78 and an 87 on my map somewhere. And at the end of the game, I need to connect in ascending and sequential order all those numbers on the map. So it's this wonderful puzzle of kind of risk mitigation, like leaving yourself some options to get out in the open and connect these dots, but not block yourself off because you don't really know what other numbers are going to be rolled or what regions you're going to be restricted to. It's a wonderful puzzle game that I'm really, really enjoying, and that is On Tour. That is my number 6 game of 2019. Let's see, my number 5 game. Okay, this is the one that might be contentious a little bit. But I definitely played it for the first time in 2019. I don't even remember exactly in 2018 when it came out, but I'm going to count it for 2019 because this is the time where I really played it and really got into it, and that is Dice Throne. This game technically plays up to 6 players. I love it at 2. I think it excels at 2. I think it's really built for 2. But I love the asymmetry. I love the custom dice. I love the feel of, it has that Star Realms feel where you are, or Magic feel, where you're trying to reduce your opponent's life as quickly as possible in these big chunks. That's a little bit different than Magic often because you are taking big chunks out of your opponent. I love the push your luck element of these dice because you're targeting different combinations of dice and you only get to use all those dice for one thing on your turn. So you get to choose one ability to activate with these dice. And I love the asymmetry. The asymmetry of the different characters. I've still only played the core box, even though I had the second season. But man, this is just an awesome game. One of my favorite 2-player games as well. I'm loving Dice Throne from Roxley Games. And actually, as I'm thinking about that, I need to maybe do another 2-player game list at some point. And I wonder if I should count this as a 2-player game. It says 2 to 6 players, so maybe I shouldn't count it for a 2-player game list. But I only want to play this 2-player game from now on with 2 players, and this is definitely my number 5 game of 2019. My number 4 game of 2019, I don't have. I borrowed it from a friend to do my video on it, but I don't have it right now. You'll actually see the video after I post this one if you're watching these in chronological order. But that is Sushi Roll. Sushi Roll is a wonderful dice drafting game, again with these big, beautiful custom dice. And in Sushi Roll, you're drafting those dice. So we're just gonna roll all of our dice, and we'll take turns choosing from our dice, and then we'll pass those dice to the next player. And that next player, this is the really crucial thing, that next player will then roll the dice again. So the dice they receive, they will roll again. So they have information about the types of dice they're receiving, because there are, I believe, 5 different types of dice, but they don't know exactly what's going to appear on those dice until they roll it. And I love that you get to actually just roll the dice a bunch of times during the round, instead of having dice that are stagnant and only rolled once per round, and then you get to see what you have as you pass around the table. So I love that you get to roll these beautiful dice a lot, and that you have some information about what you're getting, unlike other drafting games with cards where you don't know what you're getting. But there's some still randomness and misinformation, or imperfect information, because you don't know exactly what you're going to roll on your turn. Sushi Roll, really, really wonderful game. My number 4 of 2019. My number 3 game of 2019, yeah, this is another one that I have down here. This top 3 was hard, because these top 3 games are wonderful, and one of them I don't even know if it should be eligible for the list for reasons that I mentioned, but this game is very close. This is a wonderful game. This is QE. This is an auction game where you can write down any number that you want when you are bidding on an auction, which sounds crazy, but the game does so many interesting things to incentivize you not to be too crazy with that number, but it also just allows you, if as a table you are just being outlandish, that's okay. The game allows you to do that. It is a wonderful auction game, and I've had a blast every time I played this. I can't wait to play this again. I really, really love this game. And it's such a unique thing that you can write down any number. That's so different than any other auction game that I've played. So QE is my number 3 game of 2019. My number 1 and 2 game... Oh, I forgot to grab it. Shoot. Okay, well, you're not going to get a visual on my number 2, but hopefully you've seen it. It is Just One. I have it on the shelf right over there. I forgot to grab it. Just One is a cooperative game where you are trying... It's a cooperative party game, which I love. That you're not competing in teams or individually. You're just having fun as a group and helping each other. The idea is that one player will have a clue. So I have some pistachios on my desk, so I'll say my clue is pistachio, but I don't know what that clue is. I am showing it to all of the players, and you all have to write down one word each, without knowing the other words that each other are writing down. One word each that helps me guess pistachio. You reveal to each other, and if any of you have written down the same word, you have to flip it face down on the table. I don't get to see that. So I only get to see the clues that are remaining. So you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit, or maybe you have to think well inside the box and hope that no one else does. But it's just, we've had a blast every time we've played Just One. This is probably my most played game of 2019, and I hope to continue playing it well into the future. That's why it's my number 2 game of 2019, Just One. That leads me to number 1. Again, this might be a little bit of a contentious pick because I think it did come out in some countries last year, but in the US, I definitely don't think it was widespread available until this year. And that game is The Quacks of Quedlinburg. This is a bag building push your luck game. 2 sweet spot mechanisms for me, bag building and push your luck. I love those 2 mechanisms. And Quacks of Quedlinburg does them both really, really well. With the core mechanism, still kind of blows my mind of how clever it is, which is that even though you are pushing your luck, you're drawing these tokens out of a bag, and it's possible that you will bust. Even if you bust, you still get either points or resources to spend that round. So you're still kind of failing forward. You're still getting something out of it. Instead of most other push your luck games where when you bust, you get nothing. Justifiably designed in many of those games. But in Quacks, I really like that because it's a little bit of a meatier, a longer game, 45 minutes to an hour, than some shorter push your luck games, that it does have that element of you get something even if you do bust. I really, really like that. And that's why Quacks of Quedlinburg is my top 10, or my number 1 favorite game of 2019. In the links below, I am going to post a link to my personal blog where I'm going to list all these games, the videos that go along with these games, and a bunch of other categories, like my favorite expansion of 2019, my favorite new to me game that was released before 2019 that I discovered this year, best game that I played this year that just isn't for me, things like that. So a bunch of other categories will be written down on this blog entry. Feel free to check that out. It's right in the link below this video. Yeah, I think that's it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these games, or your top 3, your top 5, your top 10, however you want to organize it for 2019. Yeah, I just love to hear your thoughts. And yes, I understand I'm filming this with about 23 days left to go in the year. So there might be other games that I discover. Maybe I'll mention them in the comments below if there's a game that I do think deserves to be on the top 10. But I wanted to get this out in case anyone you wanted to use this for holiday shopping. All these games I think are fairly affordable. Clank Legacy is probably the most expensive of them, but many of these games are under $30, $40. So these could make wonderful holiday gifts feel free to ask me in the comments if you want to ask me if you're trying to get a gift for somebody and you want to say this person likes this style of game. Do any of my top 10 games from this year fit that style? I'm happy to help answer that in the comments. But otherwise, yeah, I look forward to hearing your list. And thanks for joining me for this Sunday Sit Down, my top 10 games of 2019. Take care.